Tov, everyone. Shavua Tov, Bezrat Hashem. Shavua Tov. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm going to pass these around for those that don't have the Sefer, whoever needs. This month of Shvat, sponsored by Joni and Moshe Pollack, in memory of Shimon ben Moshe, Tzvi ben Mordechai, Shira Rachma, Basar of Alter, Nasan Nata, and by anonymously, thank you Hashem, Zivug Daniel, Chana Basar Libi, and everyone else that's looking for safety, for anyone else that's looking for Zivug and the safety of our soldiers and our Chatufim. The week is sponsored by my dear in-laws, Ben and Barbara Selsky. Blessings for Yakir Shlomo Moshe Ze'ev, Nachman Shir Shalom, Chai Bina Etel, for their birthdays in the past, present, and next week's. Tons of love. Thank you. By Jill and Robert Kaufman and Michal and Chanan Shaul, memory of Tamar Bad Moshe and Israel Ben Aryeh, for the complete refuah shlema of Gita Rivka Bas Chayarisa, by Brent Eisen and family, in memory of Chaim Aaron Ben Binyamin HaKohen, and by the Jaspers, in the Jasper Mishpacha, in memory of Reuven Ben Shimon. Okay. So, we should have a lot of atzlacha today, and this whole week of staying focused and feeling very, very close to what our tafkid is, Bezrat Hashem. What is our tafkid right now? Okay, so last week, I admit, we ended on a cliffhanger, and for some of the chevra that learn with us online, I got some really startling, panicked questions, like some panics, mamash, like, I didn't realize, like, it's not the smart, you have to really be a little bit smarter when you choose to stop a piece, even if it's 5 more minutes, but this is basically where we're holding over here right now, and I'll try to do a little bit of a chazara. If you have the pages of the Sefer, it's on Daf Kuf Tet Zayin. So I'll give you a little bit of a recap, but mamash just for like 3 or 4 minutes to plug us into where we are right now. A lot of things came up last week. I got so many Herzl related WhatsApps afterwards. Your husband, back and forth. My gosh, I love it. It gets people to think. It's great. Mamash, Yoni we were back and forth a lot. I printed a whole article. He had me read before. So stay home. Don't come back here again. Chas v'shalom. Really, really special. I really encourage, and I apologize if I'm not able to get back to everyone. Just every single comment, every single thing, mamash, really adds to the learning that ends up happening in here. I don't like just to call it learning, to the avodat Hashem that happens in here, and that leaves the room as well. The question we ended off last week's shir with, this panicky kind of question, was as follows. I'm really going to try. I'm trying so hard to really mechaven to what it actually was. It could seem chas v'chalila. It could seem chas v'shalom. It could really seem like it could really feel, very much so, that the Shekhinah has been retreating. That's what we were discussing last week. It could seem that the Shekhinah, which appeared with the resurrection of the physical body of Am Yisrael, this first shlav of Geula, in all its forms, represented by a mass aliyah, le'eretz Yisrael, for many years, where all the energy and the focus and the passion of what it means to be a Jew was very much focused on this first shlav of Geula, the first shlav, which is the physical reappearance of the body. And the Shekhinah was that which we learned which was pumping the whole energy, whether people realized it or not. Having emunah understands that even though people that may seem like they weren't operating out of emunah, they were what was pumping the energy, the flow of life to come back here, to come back to Eretz Yisrael. Very simple. What was pumping the flow of it all was really the Shekhinah coming and, like we said, knocking on the door. Like Rav Soloveitchik writes in the most beautiful, beautiful piece of work that was ever written called Kol Dodi Dofek, how Rav Soloveitchik says to us, listen, it's true, like one of the things that I differ from my previous generations is that I am a Zionist. I'm Tzioni. And he said, I can't ignore the knocking that's on the door. 1948, 1966, Yivsha, I can't ignore it. And everyone here felt that we were part of something just spectacular and prophetic. and of biblical proportion. And it seems that like that oomph that made everyone feel so proud and excited to be part of what we were doing seems to have been retreating, because the Shekhinah kept on knocking on the door to say, okay, open up for part two. Open up for part two. What's part two? The second koma of kumiyut, komat haneshama, the soul. Now it's soul. Now it's all soul work. It's not just reserved for chevra that grew up in the Balei Tshuvas that were, more connected to ashrams and, more rainbow gatherings and hippie gatherings. Oh, they're the ones that now they have that language. So the Shekhinah is saying everyone has to have that language. Now that's the only way to really, really receive the body and the soul together of Eretz Yisrael. And Rav Sasson brought up last week's shir, like if you see in the second to bottom paragraph, in the third line in the second to bottom paragraph on Kuf Tet Zayin, אזי השאלה נעשית קשת עוד יותר. האם חלילה אותה פעימת חיים שהזרימה רוח כבירה בעם ישראל נעלמה מאיתנו? That same flow of life, which was mamish pumping life, blood, air, everything into Am Yisrael, does it seem that that same thing that got us to the first part is starting to retreat? Was it removed from us? Everyone's the million, gazillion, billion-dollar question of today is, what is our 1967 moment of this generation? What is, I don't know, like in America, for instance, what's the Triple SJ movement's moment of this generation? Does that make any sense? There was something that everyone felt so clearly, like powerful and passionate about to stay, to work for. And if you notice, those things that made us feel all so vibrant and sure about our direction were mainly action-based phenomena. They were action. It was befoal. I could do something. I could move here. I could build. I could plant. I can go out and protest. Who has koyach for protest? Who goes to protest anymore? Another chevra have been going, a whole chevra here have been going to protest because they also, for them, the whole judicial reform, I shouldn't say others. Some chevra here, it doesn't matter. We see how this whole thing is Yad Hashem. It's unbelievable. Anyone that's been going out and protesting strong for the judicial reform is also like, it's their moment. Because everyone's looking for something to feel like it's our moment. And en ma lasot, we can't ignore it anymore. It doesn't seem that our moment is now based on an action, protest, building thing, unless we're very, very, very clear what it is we're protesting and what it is we're building. But the clarity of what it is we're protesting and what it is we're building is not yet seeped deep into the neshama of the Am. It's still there. But the question that left everyone panicking last week was, well, when you look at things on the surface, it seems like there's a nesiga of the Shekhinah. Like, yeah, it was a chance. There was a chance, 48, 67, and every day since then there was a chance. And somehow it seems like Yeshama nesiga, there's a retreat. And that's a very, very startling feeling. That's a very scary feeling. And it's even hard to even say these kind of words. Like for some of you, maybe you want to throw a chair at me right now. How could you say such thing? First of all, I'm Baruch Hashem, Salmech and Tzaddikim. It's not my own chap, but it's definitely things that I've been thinking about for many, 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 many years. Since I'm a teenager. האם זרם האור של השכינה ההולכת וחוזרת לציון נחלש חלילה? Could it be that the flow of light of the Shekhinah, which has been coming back to Tzion, is, God forbid, becoming weakened? Is it getting weak? we're on דף קט"ז. הלא אם ההתעוררות זו החלה מיוזמות פרטיות ומהתעוררות לב של אנשים פרטיים, אפשר אולי שחלה נסיגה וחולשה ברצונם. If this whole enterprise, called what we call Zionism, or we call the return back to Eretz Yisrael, was really based on individuals having some kind of a yozma. Yozma, how do you say yozma? Personal initiatives. It was a good idea. Herzl. If it was really Herzl that came up with this, then it could be that, okay, that vision of that man is nichlash. But Emunah is that Hashem, and Rav Kook was so clear on this, Emunah is that the return to Tzion can be found through many different people's own writings and thoughts and whatnot, but it's really the Shekhinah that's the force behind it all. Has to be. There's no other explanation to it. It's the Shekhinah that's playing the role of it all. But it seems, al pia pshat, that it seems like it's starting to really get shvach. Now jump to the bottom paragraph. Hatruva ha'amuka la'she'ela zo, take a deep breath, chalila lo. Lo chala shum nesiga betnuat geulat am Yisrael. There is no retreat from the movement towards the Geulah of Am Yisrael. We have to be clear on that. And it's true that it seems when we're looking at today, is today 100 days or yesterday was 100 days? So, today, right? So it seems like, especially the tkufa that we're in, is that it doesn't even feel right now that it's like, even post Simchas Torah, that it's still a 1967 moment yet. Doesn't yet feel like that. And the reason's very clear. It's very clear, it's very demanding. Very demanding, but it's very clear. Well, we're going to discuss this. אך יש לדעת שהגאולה בפועל בנויה בכמה שלבים ורבדים. We know this. Actual redemption is built, it's comprised of a few different phases and layers. ובשעה ששלב אחד הגיע מימושו, when one shlav, like there's a statement, there's a phrase in Hebrew, mitziti. Mitziti. You know what mitziti means? Not exactly. What's that? We've done it all. Like we've done enough. Mitziti, like we did the best that we could with this one. Right? Mitziti. I had a friend that called me last week, a miluimnik that has been down since October 7th, down south. And he had told me when he was driving down south, he knew he's not leaving the area, no matter what anyone mefaket tells him, until it's all done. And here we are 3 months later, and he called me before Shabbos and he said, Tishma, אני מרגיש עם המציאות והרשות שנתונה לי בידיי היום, מיציתי. Which means, with the access and the ability that they're letting him poel now, mitziti, there's nothing more that he could do. That's a very, very, very painful thing. Mitziti. And he said it belev shalem. And it's a person that if there was no fear of him going to jail because he's not following orders, he would, I know this for a fact, he would not leave. He'd be there till the end. Like him, there are thousands of tzaddikim. Thousands that also feel like this. But he says over here, B'sha'a sheshlav echad higia el mimusho. When one stage of redemption has come to fruition, it's been done. Stomer, the light that of Shekhinah that has to appear through one form of redemption, which is the physical binyan of Eretz Yisrael, באופן שהשלב הבא כבר נדרש לבוא לידי ביטוי, while we're really waiting for the next level to come and let it fulfill its expression, מתרחשת תנועה במעמקים. There's some movement going on. And that movement is happening deep, deep, deep down inside. Somewhere very, very deep down inside, there's movement. There's a preparation for another shlav, but it's still in a tahalich mamash of hitbashlut. It's a tahalich. It's not even. It's so ripe. It hasn't come to fruition yet. And which is what? V'haratzon olech v'mishtaneh. And then people's desires change. Ad שחשק הלב כבר אינו נמשך אחרי השלב הראשון, אלא מבקש את השלב השני. Until, connects to how we began last week's shir. Until we reach a place that the passion of the heart is not, it doesn't feel passionate about the same things that it felt passionate about in the beginning. אלא מבקש את השלב השני, but it's asking for the next shlav. I'll tell you, this is very easy when it comes to marriage to look at this, to look at what he's saying over here. Very, very easy. You know, sometimes people get into this place of stagnancy. It happens to every relationship. You reach a place, things are okay, but some like shilas, some questions start to bother the mind, and all these different retzonot all these different wills and wants start coming up and appearing out of nowhere for something else than what's in front of you. And you think it's like, I want it to be like it was when we didn't have any responsibilities and any children, and even though you're not saying that, but that's really what you're saying, And it was just the puppy love and Kilu and Bayot and look how far we've gone from there. Like look how different life is now from that time, that when we didn't have to like be so bothered by different things. You know, that's not what you're saying, but that's actually what you're saying. And the thing is like this, and it's I just want you to take this in. This is just let me flow with this for a second. It doesn't mean that the first shlav in life is supposed to be met again, and it doesn't mean that where you're at now is wrong. What it means is that you're ready for the next itgalut, that you're ready for the next shlav of the relationship. That's true between spouses. It's constantly true with children, even on a faster pace. And it's true with our relationship with Hashem. And it's definitely true with the nation's relationship with Eretz Yisrael. It's definitely true about the nation's relationship with the land itself. I'm sitting amongst, giborot that are very active and lead and lead so much of the binyan of the Aretz v'chulei, and I think it's clear to everyone that the Am, without noticing it, the Shekhinah can never leave us, Bezrat Hashem. But the Shekhinah right now, inside the Am right now, is saying, you all know that you can't go back to like this patriotic, let's dance around with like Rikudei Am in the streets of Tel Aviv and, celebrate Ben Gurion's Declaration of Independence. That's not going to fulfill anyone's heart today. And you also know that it really isn't in the pnimius of it, figuring out any way, shape, or form to put the whole focus of Yiddishkeit on figuring out how to build another settlement. And you know I'm not a left-wing fanatic, obviously. I'm talking soul talk. I'm speaking from the inside right now. We know it's something deeper. It's bigger. It's listening to what the preparation of the next shlav is. And here, little tangent, but it's just very clear to me that this is what I'm sensing, what I'm feeling, and how I'm speaking with people. I used to think that it doesn't matter, just make aliyah. Z'lo mshane, just come to Israel. Z'lo mshane, come to Eretz Yisrael. Live anywhere. Akol b'seder. You just have to, that's the only thing in the world. Just come home. And when Rav Kook wrote those words, and I found a piece that we had learned many years ago, this kriya, bo le'eretz Yisrael, this is from 1907, I believe. I think it's from 1907. We had learned this amazing calling of Rav Kook to come to Eretz Yisrael, and it seemed that Rav Kook was saying, come to Eretz Yisrael, and he basically was speaking about the point and the purpose of coming to Eretz Yisrael, and it all had to do basically about self-kavod, self-honor. Mamash. Like if you honor yourselves, if you have kavod for yourselves, come to Eretz Yisrael. Bo habayta. If you're willing to stop being in a state of shiflut, of embarrassment, and disgust in the eyes of the world, and if you're ready to also redeem the kavod of the land, come home to Eretz Yisrael. Today, personally, I really, really, really don't think that that's the whole inyan. Of course it's the inyan, but the question is, to what Eretz Yisrael are you coming, and with what eyes are you coming to Eretz Yisrael? If you're coming to Eretz Yisrael in order to listen to the second level of the Geula, to what the Shekhinah is really knocking on the door, come now and come fast. If you want to come to Eretz Yisrael and this sounds gibberish to you, come now and come fast, but plug yourself in to Pnimius HaTorah, of existence, of living in Eretz Yisrael. It's not just about, let's just come home. Because think about it. In 1967, after 1967, the amount of home I had access to was divine. That was like really beyond this world. And the question is, what did we do with it? And it's amazing how, because of this shear, which gets me really agitated, I'm like agitated about this shear, is that 1967, which was this shining bright light of my childhood, even though I was born after, but meaning what it represented, it changed over the learning from being the greatest moment in our life to the greatest missed opportunity we ever had. and I don't want it to chas v'shalom. I don't want to go over that anymore. Like my deepest tefillah is to realize the opportunity we have right now and not make it a missed one. And in order to make sure we don't miss the opportunity of today, it must be now that the relationship to Eretz Yisrael, the whole thing, the whole dance, is a Shekhinah-based soul relationship. Now, there is a prerequisite for this kind of learning and this kind of talking. There is a prerequisite that we always mention. What's the prerequisite to do any of this type of work? You have to be alive. You can't be killed, right? That's the problem that we have. Like Rav Sasson told us a few months ago. What's this whole tkufa called? Sfirata Omer, Yemei Havra'ah, wellness period. Well, you know, when we have another Shabbos, when 3 Amalekites try to infiltrate another yeshuv in Har Hebron, that could have ended up in a massive massacre, it doesn't really ease the soul so much. And be like, oh, you have time right now to just spend time delving into your soul. So on the one hand, we have to always stand firm and clear that we have to stay alive, v'chai b'hem. But for what purpose? Just to stay alive? Just to be alive? Tzva hagana Yisrael? Am I just defending so that I could stay alive? Or do I want something much bigger than that? And that's called living chayei netzach ba'olam hazeh. Bringing an eternal state of living in this world. And it's big stuff. It's high levels. It's like high levels of functioning and awareness. To get back to what I started to share with you. When I sit with people, and Baruch Hashem, the last few weeks, been talking to many, many different families and couples that are really working hard on making the move to come back, to come home, to move to Eretz Yisrael. But the message is pretty clear. It's to come to Eretz Yisrael today has got to be like this. It has to be the way what he's speaking to us about, not ignoring the pi'ima, the zrima of the orin of the Shekhinah. The first shlav, the first 75 years, did its job. Ba'u lemimushan, which another way of saying is mitzinu. Mitzinu, again, on the koma of the binyan of the Am, there's never been a faster pace of growth, of physical growth, anywhere in the world. There's never been such a thing like this before in the history of the world. Such a massive, not just growth of population, but growth of all the ideas that have been coming out of such a small piece of land, with such a small amount of people. There's never been such a greater thing in the world. That's not Shekhinah. It's not coming from the Shekhinah. Of course it is. But now, the next shlav isn't going to be anymore. Like I mentioned in the shir last week, I think in the men's shir, the pride should not be those commercials that show us about what happens if you would really ban anything Israeli from the world, right? You know those commercials? Like they have these things of like, what would it be like if you actually really banned anything Jewish, anything Israeli from the world? So you wouldn't have ways. Or what else wouldn't you have? What's that?
Drip irrigation.
Drip irrigation. Cherry tomatoes. And it's like, mamish, like there's a part of me inside that's like, don't diss that. But when that becomes the representation of the Jewish people coming back home, that makes me want to cry. It makes me want to cry. That cherry tomatoes, and it sounds ridiculous, I know, but that, when we try to show the world what we've brought, we bring ways and cherry tomatoes and drip irrigation and what else? There's a bunch of stuff. Huh? Iron Dome. One of the worst things that ever happened to us.
And life-saving.
Why?
One of the worst things that ever happened to Am Yisrael. Without a shadow of a doubt. That thing which seems to us, like you said, life-saving, caused one of the greatest damages to the existence of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael to the situation that we're in right now. I know that sounds insane. Life-saving, nachon? What's behind what I'm saying? What has happened while we were saving ourselves from rockets down there? What was going on down here? This is it. Tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel after tunnel, and I can keep on going on. Where did we come to the understanding and the belief that an Iron Dome is truly life-saving? because in the world of the Geula, of Komat HaGuf, that seems to be the holiest, the best thing in the world, life-saving. Nachon? But the neshama is looking at that and saying, do you really think that that's why you came back to Eretz Yisrael, to figure out a way to block rockets? To block rockets? That's the whole thing here. We were able to justify giving up a piece of Eretz Yisrael because we didn't put an iron dome. And it completely messed up our vision of what we're doing here. Now, of course, Chas de Hashem, many, many, many lives have been spared. But that's the conceptia. That's it. Gamarno. Iron Dome now people are saying the following. Anyone that I'm speaking to, anyone that lives down south, en davar kaze migun. There's not going, no one's running back into any shelter. This is not the way to live. If the people leading the country over here right now feel that it's mikubal, it's acceptable to still live in an iron dome type of living, we won't have a next generation choosing to stay in Eretz Yisrael. That's not something worth fighting for. That kind of a mitziut. That kind of a reality isn't. A mitziut of looking into the depth of the second shlav of Geula, which is the soul, is what everyone is crying for, whether they realize it or not. Everyone knows there's no pitaron here. Nothing. There's no such thing here as ever reaching any type of normalization of anything with the people that are trying to kill us. But the real Anshei Ruach Pnimiyim also understand that even if we were able to expel all of them from the country, we would still have a test of, can we hear Kol Dodi Dofek of this door? And that has to do with the Ruach. That has to do with becoming Anashim Pnimiyim. That's also not enough. But let that be our problem, right? Let us be able to experience a Sfirat Omer in this country, in this land, where I don't feel threatened every single day to walk anywhere, to do anything. So these are the callings of this door. This is what's going on in today's day and age. And what he's saying is, if you could listen really deep, this is what the neshama is demanding of us to say. Can you please hear the calling and understand you want something new right now. You just don't have the words for it yet, but you want something new. And your children definitely want something new. הרי זה כמו באדם הפרטי. When the Kuf Yud Zayin. Like with anyone, any personal, any individual. שבכל שלב בחיים, הרצון שלו נדלק ונמשך אל אותו הייעוד השייך לשלב זה. Let me ask you something. Try, if you can, to go back 10 years ago in your life. If you could remember that far. Try. Mamet. And try to remember the thing you were most passionate about 10 years ago. Like that you would mamish give your life for. You'd do anything for it. Nidlakt, you got, mamish, intensely, like turned on by an idea, by something, right? A figure, an identity, whatever it is, an art, a passion, right? The problem is that when we look back and we see that it's so not us anymore, we belittle it. But really, in its time and in its moment, it was everything to us. It meant everything. Maybe you have to go a little bit further back. I don't know, 20 years. Some of you can go back 5 years. I don't know. It's different for each person, right? It's different for each person. That's why it's so important to do what the Piasetzner Rebbe says, periodically. I don't know how often he meant that this should be done, but a person should write down on a piece of paper their thoughts. And he said, Tachrot et nafshecha al haniyar. Engrave your soul onto a piece of paper. And there are many different reasons why he said to do this. This is the opening line in his diary, in the opening paragraph in his diary, Tzav V'ziruz. Those are diary entries from the years 1929 to 1938. You could imagine what was going on in this diary. It's an amazing compilation of heavenly prophetic thoughts. But I think that it's important to notice that, to remember what was the thing that I thought if only I had this, everything would be okay. And you really felt that. You really felt that. And today, it may not be that. And that's normal. That means you're alive. That means you're growing. It doesn't mean you're fake. It doesn't mean you're a fraud. It means, Baruch Hashem, you're not stagnant. If a couple wants the same exact thing they want when they got married, it's very, very, very nevachom. If they're trying to recreate everything that happened when they first got married, it'll never work. But if there's a Rav or a Tzama for something new, it means they're alive and they're listening to something deep down inside. And they need help to try to understand what it is exactly they're trying to say and they're trying to express. It's the same exact thing with us. Again, הרי זה כמו באדם הפרטי, שבכל שלב בחיים, הרצון שלו נדלק ונמשך אל אותו הייעוד השייך לשלב זה. At every single moment in life, I'm attracted to a certain ייעוד, a destination, a purpose that's שייך for me now. ומשעה שנעשה בשל לשלב הבא, but from the moment that he becomes ripened for the next level, מתפוגג הרצון מהשלב בהווה, the ratzon, the passion, the drive, the will and desire that you had for right now, מתפוגג, which means begins to expire, ומתחיל לחפש את השלב הבא, and you start looking for the next thing. לכן תקופה זו מאפיינת בחלישות רצון מחד. That's what מאופיינת. That's why this period we're living in, it seems on the one hand that it's showing, it's displaying some type of a weakness of spirit, of ratzon, uberekanu't v'chipus tochen acher me'idach, and looking for something else on the other hand. יש מי שיצפה במצב הזה ויאמר שהאדם בנסיגה. There are people that can look at the situation we're in and say, you're retreating, you're becoming weak, you're losing yourself. Ach nevonei lev. I love that frame, that reference. Nevonei lev. Those that have the wisdom of the heart, yavinu sheyesh kan tnuat hitkadmut. You're actually moving forward, towards somewhere. Vezeu shlav dimdumim. You know what dimdumim means? Twilight. It's a twilight zone. I can't put any, that seems to feel like the most shayach description of the era that we're living. Dimdumim. It's a twilight zone. Even hearing that, it's like, yeah, that's mamish the soundtrack right now. And when we speak about this in a second, tkufat ma'avar. Not just dimdumim, but tkufat ma'avar. That means the season's changing. There's a transition. Mikoma achat shel chaim, to one level of living my life, lekoma ashira u'mefutachat yoter, to a much more enriched and developed way of living, of actual life, of being alive. We're in a twilight zone. How do we know that we're in a twilight zone? Because on the one hand, we've never, in our generation, been around so much darkness, but at the same time, we've never been around so much heroism. And in 1 second, I feel like I'm part of the greatest nation that ever existed, and in the same breath, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on over here, right? And about the same people, from the same nation, from the same generation. Twilight zone. It's so freaky. But he's saying that is actually really just pointing to us that we're in a transition place. Now, I don't have to say this to you. In labor, what's the most intense shlav of labor? Transition. It's the most intense shlav, and the Baba Rebbe used to speak about this, and the tzaddikim, that people that walk into the birthing room, or in today's day and age, the living room, wherever it is you're giving birth, right? Wherever you're giving birth, yeah, birthing room, it's true, hospital or home, wherever, and you walk in right then and there, and all you hear is what you're hearing in the moment, and then you see people on top of a woman with all these different things, and you think you're walking into the worst horror movie in the world. The worst horror flick you could ever imagine. Obviously, the person with context understands you're witnessing a transition right now. But if you're saying, listen, we have to go back to the way she felt just before this happened. It's like, what, are you crazy? She's about to bring life into the world. But in the mind that always suppresses any form of opposition or pain, right now, all I know is that this has to stop, right? This has to stop. I don't care. So you have a lot of people in the country that they look at the matzav and they're like, whatever's going on now, lo echpat li. Bechol mechir, at any price, I have to go back to figure out a way to dancing Rikudei Am in Rehovot, in Rothschild, and to go back to what it was like with the early Zionists and the pioneers. Lam shaneh ma, because then it wasn't like this. Whatever it wasn't this, right?
Their comfort zone is what they know. The unknown is scary, so can't be better.
But Ezor Dimdumim means twilight zone, meanings like mamash, like I can't imagine how right now, what's happening here right now, means that the Shekhinah is actually like really here. How could I look at any footage from Simchas Torah? How could I look at anything in the streets of Tel Aviv on Yom Kippur and say like, no, this is the Shekhinah that's saying, I'm appearing right now. And of course, the onus, the responsibility is on us, so to speak, God's PR people in the world. How to bring about the people to explain to them what you really want. How do you do that? How do you explain to someone that what they really want is not what their words are saying, but it's really happening beneath the surface? How do you do that? By telling them, listen, if you keep enough Shabbases, you'll figure out what I'm talking about. It won't work on anybody. It won't work on anybody. That's not the language either. Even the dibur, even the way to speak to this door today, has to come from such a place of anava, of humility and mamash being in awe of a new or chadash, of a new light that's coming down. But I hate to say it, most of people today that are in spirit, so to speak, the spiritual chair and representation, they haven't learned the language of the door either. They're not speaking the language of the door. The artists are, the musicians are, but they also need someone to speak their language. They also need authority. They also need guidance. Trust me, I'm telling you, I know these chavra. They really long for guidance, and they don't have it. They know they have to become rebbes themselves, and they don't have it. They don't have it. Kederech ha'adam ha'prati, like the individual person in his life, כשחייו הגיעו אל הקומה הבאה, when you've reached the next level of life, אזי לבבו עוזב את הקומה הקודמת. Your heart leaves the previous drive, the previous passion. כך הדבר מופיע בחיי עם ישראל. And we keep on saying this appears in the life of Am Yisrael. הלהט החלוצי, that pioneer passion, כבר איננו קיים בצורה טבעית כמו שהיה פעם. It's not naturally there anymore like it used to be. The oranges, that's what I'm thinking about. The oranges, or whatever resembles, those days. Whatever resembles those days of that pioneer passion. Yesh, or honestly, kibbutzim and all these things, these things were like, when you mention those words, they were like Kodesh Kodashim in my house. These lahat chalutzi. And it's not, the drive in this generation is just not there anymore. Once in a while, you get to meet one of these precious neshamas that somehow is in this door, but they're really shayach to back then, like this holy brother that some of us met from Kibbutz Be'eri Yarden. Who was there? Who's met him? Some of you met him. Yarden, yeah, you met him. And sometimes you meet these neshamas, they're really plucked from back then, that they still have some kind of shayach to getting high on chaklaut, getting high on agriculture of the land. Right? It's not. That's how it used to be by everybody. That was the klal. People were getting high off of vegetation. Crazy. It's not there anymore. That lahat isn't there anymore. Yesh mi she'yireh zot kenesiga, and again, there are those that could see this as downfalls. Ki tpogegut hachalom shel bniyat haaretz, and people could also see the dream of building the land is over. It's done. Ve'ulam ha'mabat ha'amok, the deeper glance, ha'mevin et shoresh u'mekor ha'tnuah shel Am Yisrael el gulato, a deeper glance from someone that understands the source and the root of the movement of Am Yisrael towards its redemption, ידע להבין שדבר זה נובע מכך שהשלב הבא צריך להופיע. They understand that the reason it feels that everything is stuck is because the next shlav needs to appear. ולכן, הלבבות מונחים בנקודה זו. The hearts are basically stuck. They're placed at this very, very fragile moment, b'chipus hashlav haba, while they're looking for the next shlav. And what's the next shlav? Komat haruach v'haneshama. The next shlav, the shlav of spirit and soul. Recently, someone told me that in the Arava, where some of the yeshuvim and kibbutzim from the south have been placed now, in the middle of Arava, I don't know how old this place is, I forgot the name of it, but there's a whole chevra of Israelis that set up a Buddhist colony. You know about this? Mamash. And I'm going to tell you something that it'll sound so pathetic, but not pathetic. It'll sound so not from. But hold on for a second, okay? Like hear what I'm really trying to say. When they described to me what the chevra there are like and what drove them for this and all that, I'm telling you, I had a cheshek to go and hang out with them for a little bit, and I know that I could probably relate to them deeper than many stagnant heilige from Yidden. These people, you should know, they gave up their lives right now for the mifunim that are living right there amongst them. They could say, no, we're the enlightened, enchanted people. We understand it all. We can't be infiltrated by people that are all into Zionism and stuff like that and have to run away from their homes. We'll send you money. Go stay there. Afuch. They've mamash, provided them with everything they need. And mamash, big, it must be big neshamas. See, it must be big neshamas. Now, obviously, can I eat at their tables? No. Can I keep Shabbos there? No. But you understand, those are all things on the outside. And the inside, it's people, Israelis, that came to some level of enlightenment where they said, the way the direction, all the passion is being put here now does not give any satiation for my soul. I have to, it's got to be that it's somewhere else. The light is probably somewhere else. So I'm not going to move right now to anywhere else in the world, but I'll do it here. Why not? I'll do it here. And I feel like anyone that's on the trajectory of becoming a deep and enlightened person, here today as Jews, that's looking, that's mamish searching for other people that are sharing the calling of their heart, will be more disappointed than not unless we mamish wake up, unless the soul wakes up. Waking up doesn't just mean, kill all your enemies, they're going to kill you. That's komat haguf, that's shlav aleph. Wake up right now, today, based on this learning, means, what's the tzura of your Yiddishkeit? What is the tzura? What is the form, the shape of your living as a Jew in this world? What's the heightened state of awareness you're living with? That's the wake-up call. And we have to admit that even the most learned of people don't understand this safa. They don't know the language anymore. They don't know the language yet because it's only now being revealed. Do you know what people thought about Rav Kook when they read his writings when he was alive? What did they think about him? Bemet.
They didn't understand him.
Which led them to then come to the conclusion, since they didn't understand him, that there's something wrong with him. He even one time wrote, Mi shechoshev alai, Yonatan Razel wrote a song to these words. Mi shechoshev alai shani
Neshama p'gu'ah or something.
Shani neshama p'gu'ah, that I'm like a hurt, blemished soul. He's right. They're right. That's what he said. It's true.
And it's from Rav Kook who said that.
It's Rav Kook's words. Yeah, he took Rav Kook's words. He said, people that look at me, they read my writings, or they hear me speak, and they think about me that I've kind of lost it. They're right. They're right. My heart is in such dire need to figure out how to lahashkot et atzon, to nourish and the flock. And I'm still, that's why Rav Kook's writings seem so all over the place. You know why? Because he himself, with every letter that he wrote, was looking for the right language to figure out how to speak to that door. He was still looking for it. So basically, the bottom line over here is that, like you see in the next subtopic, he says, Atzimaon lemadrigot hakodesh. Today, to live in the world that we're living in, and you're looking at all the mishigas, and people are saying, I want this, I want that. What the real calling that the Am is crying for is that they're so thirsty for holiness. The only problem is that they don't know what it means, and those that come and represent holiness also don't exactly know what that means. And we don't know what it means yet either. The question is, how badly do we want to understand what it means to be holy today? If I asked you right now, I want everyone here to throw out some words in the statement of defining holy without trying to sound too smart. Okay? Don't try to impress. But I'm just going to put it out there. If I said to you right now, listen, there's a whole chevra that they have nothing to do with Yiddishkeit, but they understand that they're calling inside, and mechapsim kedusha, like Rav Dov Zinger said, that really in all these hafganot, remember I told you, for the whole, this whole year, they're screaming, busha, busha. He said, if you listen closely, their neshamas are actually screaming, kedusha, kedusha. They're asking for kedusha, kedusha. Okay, great. Someone comes and knocks on your door and says, listen, I'm here for holiness. I've realized that's what I'm really searching for. What would happen to you right now? Did you get startled a little bit? A little bit pressured? A little like nervous and...
I just want to share that it's exactly what happened to me. My niece lives in Toronto, and she's now awakened. She was totally reformed. She wants to learn Hebrew. She wants to learn everything. So now we have a Zoom meeting every 2 weeks for an hour and a half to study this Kumi of Torah. Where do I start? What do I say? What books do I give her? She wants to know. She wants to learn Hebrew. She wants to be all this desire to love God. What do I say? What do I do? Where do I start? What do I say?
Who wants to offer an outlet?
Rabbi Nachman, Baal Shem Tov. Somebody who doesn't know anything, or in terms, I mean, she knows.
Right.
Bat mitzvah.
And this is happening everywhere.
Exactly.
It's happening everywhere. What are we offering them as a people of Eretz Yisrael? And again, this sounds like, Malka, you're going to freak out on me, but like, Aliyah? Come home? To what? Yes, of course, come home. L'shem coming home? What are we saying to them? For years, we looked down at the Yidden of Chutz La'aretz. How could it be they didn't hear the calling? How could it be they didn't move home yet? Do you know how many people, my friends in the Chutz La'aretz, they're mevakshim kedusha? They are. And of course, the place that it can only appear in its might and its glory is here. But they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to go through it alone. They're loners there. They're going to be loners here. They don't want to do it alone. They want to feel that people are on the same page with them. But you really, okay, so you shared one thing. Just jot out some words right now when I say Kedusha. What is that? Someone comes to you, they have no idea about anything. They have this shocking moment of revelation that whatever it was, I need something more. And I think it's this concept called consciousness awareness. The Buddhist Chaver are going to chop them in a second if you don't come up with something. In a second. All the East.
But it's not. We're much more. Please tear the whole thing apart. I think we have to be more grounded before we can really get there.
What does that look like to you? To be more grounded?
So I don't know. I'm thinking, what do you teach a kid? You teach them some netilat yadayim. You teach them to wait a second and make a bracha before they eat. That moment of waiting.
You tear it down for me. Instead of, it's too easy for me. You tear it down. No, but I meant, we've been learning for you.
Much better than I can
tear down what you just said right now for a second. Try.
There's a stepping back and a letting Hashem in. It's not just me going up to some lofty place, because there is no lofty place. It's all Hashem. Somebody told me there's people learning Kabbalah in Haifa, and they don't know it's from Judaism. We had this whole argument over Shabbat over it, and I was like, Urgh. I said, yes, but I respect.
Okay, I'm bringing you back to let's go back to you for a second. And by Amindi, I know right now that the calling that I know that I'm a Jew. The world has shown me I'm a Jew. The world has made it clear to me I'm a Jew, whether I like it or not. And I know that being a Jew always resembled for me ghetto, pain, being hunted, being persecuted. I know it's got to mean more than that.
Okay. So,
Hilchot netilat yadayim.
No, exactly.
That has to be the part of the
outer.
Yeah. Of course.
So chelik aloka mimal mamash. I don't know. That's not going to ring a bell to them either.
Yeah, Karen.
I don't know if I can really say this, but I think it comes out to authenticity. we're not looking anymore for the things or how we're meant to feel or what it's meant to be like. But what is the realness of it? Which is the whole Shekhinah part of it.
Why are we scared to talk like that?
Because we don't believe it ourselves.
How would you begin to explain to someone that the shlav of this next level of geula has to do with authenticity? Without putting you on the spot too much, but you know what I mean. This is the groundwork of what we're talking about right now. Yeah.
Well, it feels like recognizing ourselves, like what you said. Recognizing ourselves, we can say we are broken to an extent, and you can know that, and we're not pretending anymore that this is what it's meant to be like. So we're in it together, and that's part of the growth. Is that we can.
It's very chazak. It's very chazak what you're saying. It's very, very strong. It's very real. It's very real. It's accepting the pain. It's realizing, mamash, I can't pretend that this is not, that I'm not completely shaken. You know, this being authentic with the moment, with the reality that I'm met, and not trying to give some vort of explaining to me how based on a midrash I saw, and proving me through dates that this is going to happen. No one wants to hear these things. Mechila, the Rebbes that are saying, like, you'll see till here at this date and this day. Even if it ends up being true, that's not going to turn anyone on to their souls.
Well, it didn't until now.
Nachon?
So it's what Karen said. You have to be authentic and say, and show the warmth and the love that Judaism has.
Yeah.
Forget about all the halachot and everything at first. Show them the warmth and the beauty that comes with it. And then you slowly start showing and teaching them.
I felt it last night. I'll share with you. My uncle died over Shabbos. Our uncle, Michan, our uncle died, our last uncle. And the Levaya was late last night. And what happened, I mean, this is it's not much like a Seinfeld episode. They couldn't, the Spedim were over, but while they were preparing the kever, they found a massive rock in the kever that they couldn't easily remove, so they couldn't bring the body to the kvura. And they brought a little tractor. Did you see the tractor, Michal? They brought a little tractor. It's late at night. It's freezing. They're working so hard. Then other chaver are realizing it's getting late, so till eventually, after a long time, they were able to crack that rock. It is on a mountain. I mean, cemeteries are in Eretz Yisrael quite often on mountains. Har HaZeitim, Har HaMenuchot, right? This is an Eretz HaChaim in Beit Shemesh. So there were some fill-in hespedim because just the time, right? It was a little bit, you know, it was uncomfortable just because it was getting late and I felt so bad. And my father and I are standing outside, of course, as Kohanim, so I couldn't be with my family in there. But then so he asked me to also say like a hesped. It was like a big rabbanim there saying a lot of hespedim, long, like, you know. Anyway, so they brought a mic outside, and I said to myself, like, what do I actually really want to say right now without filling something in? Like, what do I actually want to say right now? So I said, and it may seem like so not kovadik based on the other hespedim and this and that, but that I asked myself as I was driving up to the funeral, what is it do I feel when I mention Uncle Jack? That was his name. Besides the fact that he, mamash, is the one that turned me on to my obsession with cream soda, which was his name, right? What is the thing that Uncle Jack gave? What did he, in his presence, what was it? And I was discussing it with my sisters afterwards as well, is that he mamash, in the most simple, pashut way, he loved me. And I always felt that when I was with him, no matter what. It was almost like more like a grandfather type of like giving over that kind of love, because he was much older. And from all our aunts and uncles, we didn't live next to any of them. One was in Argentina, and the others were in the East Coast. We were in the West Coast. But we spent most time with him. And I felt so shalem with just saying at a hesped that he provided his nephew feeling loved. To me, that's the greatest cover that I could mention right now in his presence, right? And then I started thinking to myself when I was finished, like all the Rabbanim probably thinking, like, that's what you say to hesped, like Be'emet. And then I said to myself, well, yeah, sorry, it is. It actually is. because, I don't know, the drushes aren't working. Meaning, there's a time and place for everything, but the drushes for the door aren't working. It's not going to work. All the drushes, all the shaklevatayas, is not like ha'am pashut, ha'am rotze chibur, ha'am rotze ahava, ha'am rotze amit emet, ha'am rotze pashut largish amitim, authentic. Like that's what people are really striving for, and we lost that language over the years. Again, 6 million being killed, Arab army after Arab army trying to kill us here didn't really give us the period that he keeps on mentioning here, that we have to, this wellness period, to come back to what we really want. But what we really, really want is not to have to use so many words to describe what we're feeling. We want it to be mashu yoter zorem. Now, the avoda we're in right now is very important. You could leave these kind of classes and go into super judgment mode over anyone that's not thinking like this, or on the past as well. But you also have to understand that you don't get to transition period in labor unless there's 9 months of labor. You don't get to the transition period in Am Yisrael of now unless there's 75 years of the first phase. The only question is, do you believe a baby is going to come out now or not? Or do you think this is going to be like this forever? If a woman chas v'shalom has a chashash that transition stage is forever, then what do? What, sorry?
Give up.
Or they make a very problematic declaration. Worse, I swear I'll never do it again. That's why. No, that's why there's a korban. You know this, right? That's why you have to bring a korban after the birth, because when you're in that stage of transition, and for whatever the reason is, you forget, that what you've been told, or even what you've experienced in the past, that it's not going to end like this. There's going to be birth. There's going to be life. So you get stuck in the place of either Yeush, which doesn't really help because it doesn't take away your pain, or that statement of I'm never going to do this again.
Years, we have no idea when the end game is.
Sorry?
Birth can take a day, 2, 3. We have no idea when this transition, painful period that we are in is going to end. We are stuck. And it's hard sometimes to stay in the place of clarity.
Even if you told a woman that's in the height of her transition that in half an hour from now it's going to end, she won't believe you.
Or she'll believe you, but it'll be hard to hear in the moment.
It won't matter. It won't.
But she'll be like, "Was this worth it?"
It won't matter. That's the point. It won't matter. So like we say on Tisha B'Av, Eli Tzion ve'area kmo isha betzireya. Yerushalayim and its cities are like a woman in their tzirim, a woman in her birth pain. That's what it is. We have to remember, though, that life means something new. It doesn't mean more of the old. It means a new bria. And we're in transition. We are. Well, like you said, Daniel, I agree with you fully. It feels like, since we have no idea that when this is going to be, a woman in the heightened state of the tensity of transition, like we said right now, doesn't also feels like she never knows if this is ever going to end and when it's going to end. And it doesn't even matter to them because it's the feeling. But you have to let yourself feel. We have to let ourselves feel what's going on right now. And in the beginning of this whole tkufa, I was telling everyone, you should see, you should watch everything. I have no idea anymore. I don't know what it's going to take. I have no idea what it's going to take. Some people watch and then they voluntarily, the off button is like even stronger. But whatever it is, if we're thinking about the klal and the new birth of Am Yisrael and the hundreds of thousands of Jews that are waiting for the Lech Lecha moment, then what an honor, and what a privilege, and what a responsibility, the time that we're living in, to make sure that we are wide awake. And wide awake means learning how to listen to our neshama. Consciousness, awareness in our learning. This morning I was thinking of doing something in shul now, but I don't know how it'd be taken, that every single day I want some kind of like a big, like removable plaque that you could put up, and a different phrase from davening just be on the wall every morning when you walk in, to be like, words I've said every single day. Today it's going to heighten my awareness just for today. But then I started thinking about what it would be, and then I myself lost focus during Psukei de Zimra, so I whatever, just different methods, different nekudot, to heighten our state of awareness and prepare us for realizing that every second is offering a lot of newness. But what a shame it would be if we didn't do everything we can to align ourselves with the voice of the Shekhinah today. What a shame it would be. It would be so disappointing. What a shame it would be if there's really a 1967 on the horizon right now, and we still got stuck in that pesel, the idol worship of being politically correct, which we still haven't gotten rid of. It's still there. It's still there. Mamash, it's still there. If it wasn't there, the story down south wouldn't look like it is. Nor would there even be a situation up north. So Levai and the schus of the soldiers on the battlefront that are saying mitziti, and they mean it, we can't say mitzinu yet. We can't say that word yet. Od lo mitzinu. We haven't even begun. And that this avoda of tapping into our neshamas, and I don't know exactly what the exact sefer is. I don't know what it is, you know.
What you're just saying to me is helpful, because then I just can open my heart and to that empathy and feel that she feels that Hashem loves her. And
which is the point of everything.
Thing, you know.
It's everything. It's everything.
Teach meditation so I can do that. And she did Buddhist meditation, so it can.
Yeah. Okay, we'll continue next week. We'll continue on Thursday.